Well, good morning again, YouTube. All right, guys, today we're back on the bathroom remodel. In the last video, you saw I came in, I took out the tub, the toilet, the vanity, and well, we've got a mess left in here now. I think since then I've done a little bit of research, and I think I am going to go ahead and just pull all of the drywall out of here and start from scratch. I also want to replace all of the plumbing. So I mentioned in the last video that shower valve there I had replaced a few years ago, and this new PEX pipe running right down in underneath. So that's already been replaced, but we're going to replace it again. Other than that, you know, the toilet supply and the vanity supply, that's all original stuff from the 80s. It's old copper. The valves are crusty. In fact, you'll see the bucket underneath the toilet supply. I put that there 2 days ago when we disconnected it, and it's half full of water, give or take, because even though that is shut off, it continues to leak. So yesterday, while I was out and about in town running some errands, I stopped by Lowe's and picked up a few things. I picked up a cap for 1/2-inch PVC so that under the floor, I can go ahead and cut this drain pipe off and just put a cap on it for now to keep a bunch of trash getting into it. And I also picked up some shark bites that are caps, just as temporary caps for all of the water supply. So I just got an 8-pack. Honestly, I couldn't remember whether the shower was 1/2-inch or 3/4. I think it's all 1/2-inch, but I got a couple 3/4 just in case, but I got a bunch of 1/2-inches as well. And it's just so that these pipes aren't sticking through the floor and are live with water while I try to do this demo, because there's a good chance that, you know, we're gonna hit it or nick it or whatever. So I'm just gonna go underneath and basically shut the water off to the house, cut the pipes, put caps on, turn the water back on. That way the rest of the house is functional, but there's no risk of breaking a pipe as I'm in here doing the rest of this demolition. All right, guys, pretty neat little trick. Before going below the floor and cutting the pipe, there was still water in the P-trap, so I reversed the hose on the shop vac so that it blew instead of sucked, and turned it on and just stuck it over the pipe, and it pushed all the water out and down so that that's not going to spill water when I cut it down below. It worked. And throughout this video, you guys may hear some ruckus in the background. It's because the grandchildren are here with us today, so they may be talking or playing with toys or whatever in the background, but it's okay. All right, so I have shut off the water supply and opened up the hose bib, which is one of the lowest points in the whole system, so that water can then run out of it. And I'm gonna go underneath the house and we'll disconnect and cap all those pipes real quick. I hope real quick. All right, guys, so here we are under the house. You guys remember the other day when I told you I fell down the steps or off the last step and landed on my knees in the gravel? Well, crawling under the house, I'm sure feeling that now. But we're down here, so here is where the toilet goes up. Here is the drain for the sink, water supplies for the sink, water supply for the toilet, and then down there are the water supplies for the actual bathtub. So I think I'm just gonna start right here. I'm gonna use the Sawzall to cut the 1/2-inch pipe on the drain. I'm gonna leave it up a couple of inches so I can put a repair coupler in there and maybe even put that same pipe back in a little while, or when the project is done, and then I'll move on to the water supply pipes. All right, pretty easy cut with the Sawzall. I was gonna put a cap in that. Now debris can't fall into that drain pipe. Now I gotta cut. Now I gotta come up here and cut these copper pipes. So I've placed this bucket of debris directly below the pipes. That way, as I cut it, any water that does come out will fall into here. And I just noticed something too. We did the plumbing for the washer and dryer over there a couple months back. We've got a leak. It's got a wet spot over there. I think it's just in the drain line, not the water supplies, just the drain line. So I brought 2 different tubing cutters down here with me. I got the larger one and I got this little tiny one. But I'm thinking I'm gonna have to use this tiny one because where I need to cut the pipe is up a little ways from the rafter, and not enough room to swing this, but I think I can swing this. All right, so I've got those 2 supplies cut, and then I use the copper wire brush tool to clean the pipes. Now we just got to put this cap on there, and it's just a push to fit. It's a shark bite, temporary fitting, not a permanent fitting, but we can just kind of cap it off and not worry about leaks and be able to turn the water back on so the rest of the house has water and this doesn't get flooded. Should be that easy. All right, got that one for the toilet supply done, and now down to these two. And they should be easier because they're already shark bite, so I should just have to disconnect and then put a cap on. All right, guys, about a half an hour has gone by. It did not go well. I turned the water back on after getting everything capped, and I had one that was leaking. Apparently, as I was cutting with the cutter, I got it wonky, so it was walking down the pipe. Well, by the time it cut through, it had actually tapered the pipe. So my cap didn't seal. It was a steady drip. So I ran back down here after shutting the water off, obviously, and I cut it again back past where I had messed it up, put the cap back on, but then I was too close to that T that was in the pipe, and I couldn't get that cap to go on all the way, and it leaked even worse. So I had to come down and cut the whole section of pipe out. So there's my cap, and there's that T, and I just cut the whole section out and put a piece of PEX in there, and well, hopefully problem solved. And of course, in the process, I have made a wet mess down here, so now I'm soaking wet from crawling around on the wet plastic down here. Not fun. All right, now in order to facilitate that repair, I had to run back up here and cut these pieces of PEX out and use those two shark bites that I had because I didn't have any other ones. I had plenty of the caps, but didn't have any more that would flow through. So luckily I had those there, but looks like the problem is solved now and we can move on. Well guys, all the crawling under the house has just wore me out. It's so tight down there, and with my knees already being sore, it's quite uncomfortable. But all the plumbing is gone in here except for the tub drain pipe. And I thought it was kind of funny. I'll show you in a second, but the water supply for the toilet, I just went ahead and cut off with a Sawzall. Everything else, because I cut down below, I was able just to pull through the top. I removed the shower valve, but check this out. I was looking at the tub piece and I noticed something. I wiggled it a little bit and it moved. And yeah, it wasn't even really attached. That pipe just was set inside this hole. No nut, no nothing to hold it. That's just the way it was assembled. It's, you know, it's really no wonder I've had so many water issues. I mean, that's not something you would think to check, but yeah, just, you know, shoddy workmanship. It's okay, we're gonna fix it all. We're gonna fix it all. All right, so I have put a little bit more thought to it, and yeah, I think all of this drywall is coming out. One reason is, like I said, it's beat up, it's old. I don't see any obvious mildew problems on some of it, but I think some of it might. I'd rather just get rid of it. The second reason is I want to do a better job at insulating in here, especially the ceiling. And because we're going to be doing like a Schluter system in here, I want to have the opportunity to completely waterproof this entire project. That way this issue never happens again. You know, building sciences have changed a lot over the last couple of decades. When this house was built, creating that envelope wasn't really important. But nowadays, they want to stop that vapor coming up from the ground, coming into your home, and then escaping through the top, because it takes all of your air conditioning or heating or whatever, your conditioned airspace away. Now, years ago, we did the encapsulation down underneath, so we're stopping that ground vapor from coming up, but we're not holding in our conditioned space. It's able to permeate through the drywall, through the cracks, and then out through the vented attic. So if I were building this home from scratch, I would completely envelop it basically, but we're not. But right now I'm remodeling this room. So I can completely waterproof this ceiling with the Schluter system, stop that vapor even from being able to escape. That will make this room super efficient. I know that doesn't help the rest of the house, but right now, this is the room that I'm doing, and I'm likely gonna do the same thing out here when I pull this drywall down as well. And this section will all be done. And then as I move to different rooms of the home, I will do the same thing. So there's an efficiency thing there. It's gonna cost more money now, but I think it's gonna save money in the long run. It's gonna save headache. The other reason is the physical dimension of the drywall is probably going to make it challenging for me to get the new tub in place. It's a one-piece fiberglass unit, but just the tub, not a backer, just the tub. And then we're gonna do a tile back. But if I can squeeze it through this door, which I don't know that I can yet, I may have to take out part of one of these walls to get it in here. Trying to get it in and then lay it down with the drywall in place could be very difficult. So just all gonna go. I'm gonna get rid of it, all of it. Now, obviously I still need my light fixture so I can see in here at the moment. So I will probably just take a razor knife and I'm gonna cut around that for the moment. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull this roof vent out or ceiling vent out. And yeah, we'll just start taking down walls. And then when that's all done, we'll work on prying up these nasty floors. But at least now I get a place to stand without falling through. So I'll do all that first, save the floors for last, and then the floors will go back in first, and then I'll drywall. So I pulled down the exhaust fan, and it's not at all what I was expecting. It's got like a little plug on it. That's just for the light that's on that side, but it wasn't plugged into anything. In fact, there are two fan assemblies up there. Neither one of them were plugged into anything. This has never worked since we've owned the home, and I've just never cared to look. But now I understand why it doesn't work. There is a switch here on the wall, which right now is powered on. I should probably turn it off because it may still be sending power up there. When you look at it, you can see there's a series of outlets there. And then there's that plug and that plug. Each one goes to one of those fan units, and then one of the plugs is for the light. Either way, this is not going to be reinstalled, so off to the front porch it goes. All right, so I pulled the light fixture down, and look, there isn't even a box back there. It was just a wire tucked through a tiny hole in the wall. That's definitely not up to code. Those connections are supposed to be in a box of some sort. All right, so I'm going to take my carbide cutter and or my razor knife, whichever works best, and I'm just going to cut every single seam around the ceiling everywhere I can, and then I'll just come back and start prying it off. All right, so while I'm up here, I want you to notice too the gap here where this wall has sagged. I pointed out the cracking in the wall, and it's worse on the outside. But even just look at this ceiling right here in this corner and watch. I haven't taken any fasteners out of that ceiling. Look how much I can push it up. It just, they didn't have dead wood in the right places. So much of the way this place was built was just built kind of shoddy. The bones are good, but some of the inside workmanship was just terrible. I'm gonna fix it. Okay, so I trimmed around my switches and my outlet a little bit better, so when I peel that piece of drywall off, all that should be able to stay. I cut a hole in this corner and then broke that piece out so that I can fish this through when I take this piece off and not lose my light. And then once it's down, I'll probably just put a temporary screw up there holding it in. But until then, it'll be in the way. So I guess it's time to actually pull the drywall off. One down, and two down, and wall number 3 down. I'll just lift to the ceiling. And well, ceiling down. Now that was nasty because all the blown insulation that was sitting above it. Good stuff, yeah. Really the only thing I could do was just get up there with my bar and pull it down section by section. It was messy and it was nasty and it was coming all down on top of it. Wow, without all those white walls and ceiling to reflect that light, it definitely got dark in here. Lighting has not changed, well the position has, but it's definitely not as bright in here. But I noticed a few things in the tear out. If you look right here, there's definitely some rot on that wall. What's interesting is it's dry, and we had hard rains just the other day, but that's right underneath the chimney. So you follow that up, there's the chimney stack, and you can see right as it goes into the ceiling that there are some water spots. Now, I cannot tell 100% from here, but it all looks dry. And I know that this isn't the original roof. It was originally a shingle roof. The shingles are still there, but they've gone over it with metal, and there is flashing around that fireplace. So I'm willing to bet that that was a past leak that has been repaired because none of this is wet, but you can tell that it was wet and there's mildew there. So definitely a good thing I cut it all out. All right, so it took me about an hour to clean up all of that insulation that fell down. And yes, there's still a few little bits and pieces because I haven't done a final clean, but I had to get it all out of the way. I'm debating on cutting this piece of drywall out. Now what's weird is this piece of drywall is between the 2x4 wall and the concrete block for the chimney. So how they even got that in there, I don't know. Why they put it in there, I don't know. The chimney comes all the way over to like here somewhere. So, but if there's mold on it, I want to get rid of it. It's really just this one section. So maybe I'll just razor knife that and cut that section out. Maybe I'll check this next section. There's really no reason to put drywall back on the other side, I don't think. At least not that I can think of. But I want to get rid of that mildew area. And then I'm going to go through and just start cleaning up around my nails and the little chunks of drywall that are still hanging on. Get all that cleaned up. But I also noticed that it's a lot of wiring up here. But we'll go over that in a minute. Okay, so I went through and removed all of the nails that were holding the drywall on, any other fixtures. So all of the walls are clean for the most part and ready to put up new material. We still got to pull floors out first, so we're not there yet. I was able to get rid of the mold and mildew that was in this area. I even got the stuff that was back behind the 2x4s. What's interesting is, it looks like they put the fireplace in after this wall was built, because you can clearly see here where the mud joint was, that joint was finished. It had tape on it, it was mudded. There's no way to do that with it up against a concrete wall. And all of the mortar joints on the concrete were actually adhered to the drywall, which means the drywall had to be there first. Not sure how they did construction, but it is what it is. The center section was the only bad one, and it only came down about 3/4 of the way. After that, I could see on the other side there was no more mildew issues. The drywall was solid. Same thing up here, took a little bit out there, a little bit over here. All the mushy stuff, so that you could tell it had been compromised. But checking the back side of the paper, there was no more mold or mildew. So I think that's gonna be good enough for now. But sun's going down and I'm exhausted, so we're gonna quit for right now. Luckily, it started raining also in the last hour or so, and I don't see any water coming through where this was. So I'm pretty confident that it was a earlier leak that had been repaired many years ago, and just some of that damage was still left there because they never tore anything out to fix it. All the wood is solid, so we're good there. Next step, let's get these floors out. That's not going to be fun. All right, guys, back on this now the next day, and late in the next day. It's like 5 p.m. and I had every intention of getting started on this much earlier in the day. My day just hasn't gone exactly the direction I thought it would. My office work and stuff like that just ended up taking longer, being on hold with places and so on and so forth. But here we are. I've accomplished nothing on it today, other than I've kind of pulled this switch out, tracing wires, figuring out what goes where. There's 2 leads that go up to this thing, which is going to come out, that old exhaust vent. We're probably going to put another exhaust vent in, but either way, this steel box is coming out. So got to check and make sure that you know, the power is turned off to stuff like that. And then we're gonna start ripping these floors out, I think. But I think we're gonna start with that. Let's get that down while I got a place here to put the ladder, and then we'll start on the floors. You know, and the more I look at things, sometimes I still get baffled at how things are done. So like obviously here, there's the back to a switch box, and we come around the wall, there's a switch right here on the wall. It has done nothing the whole time we've lived here. Now the fireplace is right next to it, and I assumed that it was for the fan system that's in that fireplace. So it's a gas log fireplace, but there are some vents on it, like you can turn on a fan and it would blow hot air into the living space. It's just never worked. But I'm here looking at it, there's wires coming in from up top, but they all run that direction away from the breaker box. And there's one wire coming out of the bottom. See here, so there's the 2 on top, the 1 on the bottom, but check this out. So you follow this down, it goes through this 2x4, and then that 2x4, and then goes between that 2x4 and the drywall back to this cavity and down in that hole somewhere. Let's get in there and zoom down. Oh, and it just goes back out behind this 2x4 again, but down low and somewhere down there. So at some point, either somebody added that and then fished it through there, which I find unlikely, or they drywalled right over top of it, which again, wouldn't pass any type of code. So yeah, I'm gonna try to trace that wire the best I can to figure out exactly where it goes. So it looks like this wire just goes down underneath. Maybe it goes into the fireplace somewhere down there, but I'm gonna have to get underneath the house to check that. The other wire coming out of the switch housing goes to this corner. I get up there and feel around, and it ducks right down into this corner. Now, our bedroom is on the other side of this wall, and the living room is on the other side here, right after the fireplace stops, so there's not much room there. There is a light switch there for our bedroom, and then there's an outlet on the side of the fireplace, which I'm assuming is actually this one right here. So yeah, I still don't know what they're for. Okay, exhaust fan is gone. The wire is going to it. It's kind of coiled up and tucked off to the distance for the ways. And as much as I don't want to do it, I think the only thing left to do is literally to rip out this floor. This is probably not going to be easy. What I'm thinking though is because this wood, not this top layer that's on here, but the actual subfloor and the original underlayment actually goes under the walls. So I've looked underneath. There's no plumbing or anything I'm going to hit immediately. Everything's far enough away. I think I'm just going to cut the edge with the Sawzall. That way as I'm prying up, I'm not trying to pry up on stuff that's under a wall, and we'll deal with that at a different point. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to start. Sawzall. All right, so I cut my perimeter all the way around with the Sawzall, and now I am prying up, and I'm getting some decent lift out of it, but I can only reach in so far. You can see get it moving pretty good, at least 2 or 3 feet in, but now you just got to try to get better leverage under it. Time for the bigger bar. Using the 4-foot bar, I was able to get underneath there and at least get that big section up. I was actually underneath the actual subfloor as well, but it started to break through and then just pulled this up, but it's one thing out of the way. All right, so I got about 1/3 of it out, and I got the top layer off of that. You see, I'm using another good piece of plywood to kind of work myself in, so I got a place to sit on my knees in order to pry up on stuff, but making progress. But you can definitely see how nasty it was. Nasty. All right, and I made it to the halfway point, just past the toilet flange, and had to move some more temporary flooring in to give me position. And 3/4 of the way, maybe more. All right, guys, so the floor, well, it's gone. I didn't dig out that section that's underneath the base stud or the base plate for the studs on the walls, just because I'm beat. It's already dark outside. I've still got stuff burning in the burn barrel, some of the scraps from this, but I just didn't really feel like doing any more tonight, and that's why I didn't clean up everything down in the crawl space yet either, because I'm going to do a lot more chipping and cutting to get this little bit of stuff out from underneath here. But at least now we can see what's going on. Luckily, all of the rafters look in good shape. The one that my left foot is on right now is a little bit twisted. Don't know if it shows up on camera, but it's rolled like this a little bit. Not terribly bad. I can straighten that out. And here you can see there's a little bit of floor that runs under. In some areas like here behind the toilet, it's rotten, so I've got to get that out of there still. That's going to be tricky. Ideally, I want everything that's under the wall to be removed right now. This side I'm not so concerned about. There was no water damage over here, and it actually looks pretty good, and I've got a ledger there to set new floor on. But over here, I really need to get a little bit beyond it. And the trick is I don't want to take out my closet and my bedroom to do it. So I don't know how that's going to work just yet, but I've got to be able to do something at least where the rotten parts are. If it's solid, I can leave it, but where it's rotten, I got to be able to get in there and chip that out and put something new in there. And then when I remodel in the bedroom, when I come that way, then I can take it from there on, but I have to give it this defining line. And what I don't want to do is tile all my walls in here and whatever, make it nice, and then have to go beating on stuff on that side when I'm remodeling over there. So I'd rather this hard work be done. That line is already cut. And then that way, if there is any wood damage on that side, it's just a matter of pulling it up on that side and not having to get underneath the wall or disturb this wall much at all. But if you look here, I kind of get into what I was talking about with the rafters. As you guys recall, when we redid these floors, all of my floor joists, I said rafters, but floor joists, my floor joists run this way, 16 on center, and there you can see them all sticking out right down there and under that wall there, right? But then what's weird is they don't continue right to the main beam. They stop at this cross beam, and then there's a short section here that then goes to another beam. Now, once you get just this side of the fireplace, there are pilings underneath, and then there's the big beam that runs from the concrete wall of the fireplace all the way to the exterior concrete wall, and it's a big heavy-duty beam. And then all the rafters from this side of the house set on this side of the beam. All the rafters from that side of the house come and set on the other side of the beam, and it's right in the middle. And rafters will still bow over time or whatever, but they've got good support on the ends, and they're one continuous piece from the beam to the outside wall. Well, on this side of the fireplace, this half of the house, because of the plumbing and the air conditioning, they changed things, and that center beam isn't actually centered. It's offset just a little bit, at least right here. So that center beam should be coming out right about where this piling is, and these beams should have went right straight to there and sat on it. And then the beams from the other side should have come to the other side of it and sat on it. And that beam should have went from this fireplace wall that's right here all the way to the exterior end of the house. But for some reason, I don't know why, there is a short section right here where these beams, or these wrap joists, I should say, land on this double beam, but it's not a real beam. It's just a double 2x8 or 2x10, whatever it is. But the thing is, because there's a joint there, it doesn't have the same support as if it was one continuous piece. And that's why walls are sagging. We got cracks at the corners, tape joints are coming down. It's all right in this area right here that it's really a problem. The wall that is on the concrete for the fireplace, it's never moved, it's perfect. But as soon as you start getting a couple feet away from that, this is leveraged and sagged. I'm willing to bet that if we put a level on the rafter in the bathroom, it's going to show that it's low this way and high that way. And if we put one from the door going to the bathroom, it's going to show low opposite. This being the low spot right underneath this wall, and it's why part of this is failing. So the plan is to not completely re-engineer it, but once I get the rest of this flooring out of here and I get my new floor in and underneath the wall, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to put jacks underneath it, and I'm going to jack this section of the beam back up and then create a new piling to put underneath it, maybe even two, depending on how far it is, to support this end a little bit better, so that once we fix this, it never happens again. But anyway, like I said, this is it for tonight, and this is it for this video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and all that good stuff. We're almost out the 1,000 subscribers, guys. Please, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. I really want to get this channel to the 1,000 subscribers. It's a great milestone. We then opt in for monetization, and that's always good for the channel. It helps us out a lot. It doesn't cost you a thing. So thanks for watching. Until the next time I see you, keep those engines running.